Hey, I'm Fred Vallaeys. I'm one of the founders of Optmyzr. Thank you for joining us today for another Learn with Optmyzr session. And we're very, very close now to Black Friday and Cyber Monday. So we thought we'd continue talking a little bit about shopping ads. We have a couple of new shopping capabilities we've recently introduced. So we wanted to show you those, but also get very practical and show you exactly how you might want to use those and what's the right scenario, and a couple of advanced ways to do that. So I'm in California, so I already see people saying hello from all the different places they're calling in from. So that's fantastic. Keep telling us. Michigan, hello, Texas, Norway, unfortunately sheltering in place, looks like, Minneapolis, Nashville. And then I'm joined by one of my other co-founders, as well as Aayushi, who's going to help me explain shopping ads. So where are you guys?
Hi, Fred. I'm in Copenhagen, Denmark.
Sheltering in place?
Not really, but...
Denmark doesn't shelter, right?
How about you? Hey, I am right now in India, so yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks for joining us. So Aayushi, we've had you on the call a couple of times before, so people probably recognize you. So thanks for coming back. And we've got a bit of an agenda here. So today it's about learning with Optmyzr about shopping ads. Okay, so I'm going to put that up on screen. And let me explain what we're going to cover today. So Aayushi is mostly going to lead us through all of this. But we're going to talk about the ability to create showcase shopping ads. I will explain to you a little bit more what those are. Oh, we have a fellow Belgian. I'm from Belgium originally as well. So thanks for joining us, Bart. We're going to talk about improving targeting and reducing irrelevant searches by adding negative keywords. And this is specifically to shopping campaigns. So if you want to do something like have a triple shopping campaign structure, or even just a double campaign shopping structure, one for brand, one for non-brand queries, we can automate that for you. We'll show you how that works. Then we'll talk about creating a multi-campaign structure. So even if you're doing something like smart shopping campaigns, Google recommends that you split it out between different campaigns because you'll get better results. And I have a great analogy I'll share with you to explain why that's so important in a minute. And then if you're running smart shopping campaigns, you can also prioritize your best performing products. So even though you don't get search terms reports in that case, you still get data about which products are performing well. And our tools can help you exclude the non-performers so that you're focusing your budget, and in case you have a limited ad spend, on the things that are going to perform the best. So with that, let's get rolling. So Aayushi is going to talk to us first about how to create showcase shopping ads. Take it away, Aayushi. Oh no. Don't tell me we're losing Aayushi. So that's one of the joys of working with a team in India. Sometimes is the power does go out. So and she has the screen share up. Okay, so we'll talk about kind of the concept here first, and hopefully Aayushi will join us back in a minute. So showcase shopping ads are really those ads that you would see if somebody's doing a more generic search, right? So usually when you think about shopping ads, you see a product image when the user has searched for a very specific thing that they want to buy. But in the cases of more generic queries, sometimes you don't know exactly what product they wanted to buy. And in that case, it might be nice to show a variety of products from an entire category. So Aayushi's back, so she can chime in here, but there's a guidance that you should have at least around 1,000 products in an ad group where you're going to do showcase shopping ads. So that's going to make sure that for those generic queries like office furniture, running sneakers, right, where it's not super specific, you can still show a variety of products. These ads are a little different than your traditional shopping ads because you do have to provide a headline, a description, as well as an image. And those images have very strict criteria, which in our interface will help you put it in the right way. And then Aayushi, you want to talk about the recommendation to have one ad for each category?
Sure. So it's more like, as we just mentioned, that you should have at least 1,000 products in your ad group. So if you have a category to sell shoes, or if you have a product type of a particular type, and putting them all together, in one ad group, and having one ad for them makes it much easier to gather the proper queries and to advertise the best way of products. So that is something, a recommendation which Google usually gives, and that you can have one ad for each of the categories.
Okay. And then all of this can be done with Campaign Builder 2.0 and Refresher 2.0. And Refresher, specifically, its purpose is to make sure that as new products become available in your merchant feed, all of those get put into the right ad groups, campaigns, product groups. And also when things are removed from your feed, they get taken out so that you're never advertising something that's not relevant. So Aayushi, I'm going to turn on your screen share here, and let's take a look at how this works.
Sure. So you can see right here that we have added a third type to start with. You can choose to create showcase shopping ads. Go to the next step and mention the split hierarchy for your showcase campaigns. Or you can choose to have it at the product type 0, or let's say brand product type 0. And if you want it to be granular, you can go to item ID. You can choose to have multiple campaigns and even multiple ad groups. So the criteria which you use to create ad groups, these will be available for you to when you are trying to create an ad. So we can see an example right here. You can name your ad, let's say it's a test showcase ad. You can mention the headlines and description line. And this is the first one, which is the final URL. The URL, which usually is the landing page once a customer clicks on your ad. So it can be something which you want to advertise. Let's say this is the one. And the display URL is basically your website. So you can have these up. Now, as I mentioned that you can use your ad group level attributes when you're creating the ads. It's something like this. So if you have a URL structured in a way where you can use, you have each brand or product type 0 in their names, you can use them, or you can even use them by creating the headlines. So if I want to say buy, I can use this. Or if I want to say something similar for descriptions, I can do that.
Right.
This makes it
these, sorry, you can make these dynamic. And then I suppose with the final URL, it might be nice to take people to a category page that's actually about what's in the showcase shopping ad. So you can do the same in there. I suppose put in the product type or whatever you've used to do the split, right?
Yeah. And the very major thing when we are talking about showcase ads is the image URL. So this is something which should be in line with what Google expects us to have. The aspect ratio should be 1.
Right, that's the aspect. And so keep in mind, of course, that again, this is our showcase shopping ad. So this is not a specific product image that you're going to want to put in, but you're going to have more of a lifestyle image, like sort of like something that makes people feel good, that showcases a couple of your products. It doesn't even really matter exactly which products are in there. You just want to be on category, right? So that people, for example, think about this. If somebody searches for furniture and you're IKEA or Scandinavian design, you have a very different look from, maybe a more traditional style furniture retailer, right? Because you have different furniture styles. So the whole point of this is to showcase the style that you have, so that people kind of get a sense of what they're going to see more of if they come to your website. If you're, of course, a retailer and you have multiple styles of furniture, say that you're Target and you have some mid-century modern, and so you have some modern and you have more classical furniture, then you could, of course, try to split it by that type of furniture, and then showcase still what people were more likely looking for. If anyone in the audience has any tips on how they've used showcase shopping ads, we'd love to see that in the comments, and we can chat about that in a minute as well. Okay, but that's showcase shopping ads. So should we go to the next one, Aayushi?
Sure.
Okay, so let me load up this slide here. Back to this one. So the next is how to improve your targeting to reduce irrelevant searches by adding negative keywords automatically. Okay, so that's kind of a mouthful, but really what we're talking about here is you've all heard about in shopping ads, you can have a triple campaign structure. Martin Rutgerding, who was on PPC Town Hall that we did 2 weeks ago, he was sort of the inventor of that. And the whole notion was, people might be searching for branded products or generic. They might be doing generic searches, and they're all looking for your products. But depending on what level of the consumer journey they're on, they might be more or less likely to be ready to purchase immediately. So, for example, if somebody does a generic search, again, like running sneakers, they might not be indicating that they're quite ready to buy a specific product. Whereas if they search for Adidas Ultra Boost 20 orange colorway, then they have specifically indicated what they're ready to buy at that point. And so depending on what that search is, and whether it includes a brand or whether it includes a generic search term, you might want to bid differently, and you might want to put it in different campaigns, right? And so to bid differently and to show different, to have different bids, you have to put it in 3 campaigns or 2 campaigns, and you have to put in the right negative keywords to kind of sculpt your traffic. And so if that's what you want to achieve, that's a fairly manual process. But now we can actually make this much more automated. And so, for example, we can automatically put in the brand keywords as negatives for your more generic campaign. Okay, and all of this works again through Campaign Builder and Campaign Refresher. So because of that, it's automatically updated. You define what it should be structured like, and then we will keep that in sync with your merchant feed. So that's what Aayushi is going to show you next.
Right. So we are back to the same stage where we can mention our split. So if you see here, the split right now is brand product type 0 item ID. And I just chose to create multiple campaigns at the brand level. So this is where we can choose that the level at which I choose to create a campaign, those attributes can be used to create negatives dynamically. So I just take it to the next step. Let's say I want ad groups at 2 level. I go to next, and this is where I can start configuring my negative keywords. So you can choose to add your keyword and use the curly braces to include the attribute to have a dynamic negative. When I click on brand, I have 2 options, in current campaign and one is not in current campaign. So let's say if I am advertising on 5 different brands, Adidas, Nike, Puma, and so on, and if I choose not in current campaign, so for the campaign Adidas, Nike, Puma, and the rest of them will be added as negatives automatically. And if I choose the next option, let's say in current campaign, it can be something that maybe I don't want to do the summer products advertisement for the same brand. So any sports product or any particular brand which is to be sold in any product which should be sold in summer season, I don't want to advertise. I can use that. I can even change the match types. And another thing which is very useful is to add any static keyword. So if all of your products are related to sports brand, you might want to add something as leisure or any other generic keyword as negatives to all of your campaigns. You can do that very easily. You can press done and it's done.
Yeah, and the most powerful thing here obviously is those negatives that are actually pulled from items in the feed, either the ones that exist in the campaign or that don't exist in the campaign. So really a lot of ways that you can use this to set up different structures. Now, if you were going to have that, say, triple or double campaign structure, where basically the campaigns are exactly the same products, exactly the same structure, but you want to send different queries to these different campaigns, they'd be exactly the same except for the negative keywords you make in this stage. So what you want to do is you use the Campaign Builder 2.0 to build up that campaign, and then you'll do exactly the same build, but with a different set of negative keywords. And so both of those now automatically stay in sync. And that's how you achieve these fairly complicated to execute double, triple campaign structures in a much more automated fashion. And so that negative keyword capability, that is new. So a lot of these screens that Aayushi is showing may look somewhat familiar because the Campaign Builder has been out for a while. But those negative keywords, that is a new addition to it. So if you haven't looked at it, check it out. We have a question from Eric. Does this look at all the campaigns or the campaigns in a campaign group?
So the negative configuration which we do, it will apply to the campaign group. That means all the campaigns in your campaign group, even if a new campaign is created, the negatives will be added to them automatically. And I can give you a quick example. So if you see right here, I have a shopping campaign group. And when you're in refresher, we actually show you the details. So any new configurations which we have started done for showcase or negatives, we click on more details and see the negative criteria. If this is a product type 0 is negative and the summer product type 0. And if I go to next, I will be able to see the suggestions for my new campaign for the negatives. So you see, a new campaign is being suggested. And if I click on negative keywords, there are 9 which will be added. So we take care of it based on the campaign group settings.
Cool. Thanks for walking us through that, Aayushi. Okay, so the third one we have that we wanted to look at is how to create a multi-campaign structure. Okay, so right now we've covered how you build that double, triple campaign structure, really for the purpose of driving different types of searches to the right campaign. Now, the other philosophy is that even if you do something like smart shopping campaigns, you shouldn't really put all your products in a single smart shopping campaign, because once you have automated bidding, you probably want to have different targets because some of your products have different margins. You probably care more about profit versus ROAS, right? So your ROAS is actually the lever that helps you achieve profitability. So the whole thinking is have multiple shopping campaigns or smart shopping campaigns, each with a target ROAS that gives you the profit level that you're trying to achieve. And so I said I was going to share an analogy, right? So the analogy is this: say that you have a washing machine. You've never used a washing machine. You've always been doing your laundry by hand, right? But now you got this amazing technology, smart bidding or a washing machine, and they say that you can set the temperature. Okay, so you take all of your blue clothes and your white clothes and your red clothes, and you take your silk and your cotton and your wool, and you're like, okay, let me average this all together. I'll stick it all in the washing machine, and like I'll set the average temperature to wash all of this right. That's what you're doing if you have a single smart shopping campaign. You're putting in the average from everything, and then your laundry is done and your keywords come out and your results are just horrendous, right? Your wool sweater has shrunk, your red clothes have rubbed off on the white ones. So now you have pink t-shirts, which is actually fantastic. I love pink t-shirts, but it's not exactly what you were expecting, right? And that's the same with smart shopping. So really what you want to do with smart shopping is sort your laundry, put them in the right load, and then set the exact temperature that would have gotten you the right results. And that's what we're going to help you do. Now, the problem is doing the sorting, that can be a bit tedious, especially if you have a large product catalog. And that's what our tools can help you with. And that's what Aayushi is going to show you next. So how to build out different shopping campaigns with different targets automatically. So back to Aayushi's screen.
Right. So going towards the second option we have here to create smart shopping campaigns, we can again mention the split. So if you're looking forward to have a split as brand, product type 0, item ID, or anything, you can use that. Or if you're interested into creating your smart shopping campaigns based on ROS values, and if you have your ROS buckets or ROS values or ROS ranges in some of the custom attributes, you can use that. So let's say I use custom attribute 3, and then I want my campaigns to be granular so that I get the item ID level product groups. I can do that. I choose to have multiple campaigns. So when I go to next, and this is where I can see the campaigns which will be suggested. So I have 4 different campaigns with the ROS ranges of high, medium, low, and learning. And this is where I can tweak targets. So let's say the bucket range for my products in the high ROS campaign is all of them have the ROS of around 300 to 600. I can have a target ROS greater. So I can have it around, let's say, 500. For the lower and the learning ones, I can go by 100. And for the mid ones, maybe around 200. So this is how we can tweak targets for each of the campaigns while we are creating them. You can even mention different budgets and go to the next step. Okay, so now there is another very new feature which we have is the product selection here. So in case you are just interested to create smart shopping campaigns for the products which are getting you good ROS, so that would be high, medium, and low. You can choose not to create smart shopping campaign for the level which has custom attribute 3 is, let's say, not learning. And once I update this particular campaign will not be created. Now, this is a setting which campaign group remembers in Optmyzr. And when you go and try it out in refresher, we will never suggest you to create this campaign ever again. So these are the internal settings which we remember. And as you mentioned by the product selection here, we help you to create your campaigns accordingly.
And if you don't mind, go back 2 screens where you did the selection of what was going to be a different campaign, right? And so you've showed how to set the different ROAS targets. So go for where you selected, back again where you said at what level you want to set the campaign, right? So one way to do it is you could use your custom attribute. Your custom label could contain your different margins, so you could actually put the margin level into a custom label, and then depending on how many buckets you have in there, it can automatically spit that out as different campaigns, and those could have the associated targets. Now, Geetanjali, we are running an experiment, and I was wondering if you want to talk about that for a second, where we kind of do what Google is starting to recommend, which we don't know target ROAS to have. We can automatically suggest it and automatically suggest some grouping.
Sure. So we've been running an experiment with a retailer in Denmark. So the way it started was that there was the customer was running one smart shopping campaign. So what we did was we took the performance of all of the products from the smart shopping campaign and we segmented them based on the return on ad spend. So like Aayushi showed, we created 4 different buckets. So we put products with a high return on ad spend between 400 to 600 in one bucket, and similarly medium, low, and learning. So products that don't have enough data went into learning, and as they started getting data and started getting conversions, so we automatically move products across campaigns based on their return on ad spend. So and instead of using smart shopping, we used standard shopping campaigns, but on automated bidding. So we used the TROS automated bidding strategy for all 4 campaigns. Then we took it one level further where we started changing the targets at the ad group level within the campaigns as well. And the results that we've seen are quite promising. So we've seen a 21% reduction in cost, about a 10 to 15% increase in the return on ad spend, and the conversion rate is also up by 9%. So, and I think one of the primary reasons this is happening is because when we analyzed the data from the smart shopping campaign, we found that there was a range of different return on ad spend values across the spectrum. But so there were products that were getting a return on ad spend of 120%, and there were products that were getting a return on ad spend of 600%. And Google was basically putting them all together. Now, the advantage with the new structure is you can also allocate separate budgets. So if you want to spend more on your high return on ad spend products, you can do that. If you have a certain budget in mind which you want to leave to experiment for your learning products, it's possible to do that as well. So I think this is a really good example of how you can use Google's automation, but layer your own strategy on top of that and get it to work for you much better.
Okay, everybody gets to stem your bingo card. Fred was on mute. So it's because you're not doing a portfolio, so you're not letting your high-performing products subsidize your losers, basically, and everything's being forced to perform well. So that's why we think we're seeing some of these results. So Manuel is asking a couple of good questions. So I think we've answered this one, but right now when we set the different ROAS targets, that is based on what you think your margin, or what you know your margin to be, and hence what you think the ROAS should be. But what Geetanjali was describing is sort of that next iteration that we'll have, where you don't have to know. We'll just take your historical performance and split things that way. And then we've also kind of talked about this a bit, but what's the difference between smart shopping and regular shopping campaigns? Which ones do we recommend? Geetanjali, I'd love to have your opinion, but basically, regular shopping, you just have more controls. You still get query data. You can still look at, how much money's been spent on remarketing on different channels. So ultimately, you get more control over the decisions. You also have the data to back up those decisions. Probably most people on the call today, I would go for regular shopping campaigns, because if you're here, it kind of means that you're probably more on the expert side and kind of want to take full control. If, however, you've been really heavily focused on keywords and you kind of do shopping campaigns as an afterthought, and you don't really intend to work that much on them, then smart shopping is certainly better than doing no shopping or doing regular shopping poorly. And I think we're seeing ways to even optimize the smart shopping campaigns, right? So like we've described with having multiple campaigns that actually do get you closer to the results you might see with regular shopping campaigns.
So the question that Manuel is asking, Aayushi actually just published a blog post a couple of days ago, which answers exactly this. So she talks about the different scenarios in which you should choose smart shopping versus over standard, and which cases you should choose standard over smart. But personally, for me, I think running standard shopping campaigns on automated bidding strategies, not portfolio, but TROS strategy is kind of the sweet spot, because you do have control over your queries, but you don't have to do that manual tweaking to your bids on a regular basis, or you don't have to manage all the adjustments. Smart shopping, I'm not really a fan of, and Fred, like you said, it's better to do smart shopping than to do nothing. I think that's the only case I would probably recommend it in. And even if you are doing smart shopping, definitely segment your campaigns, unless you're just selling the same kind of product.
Cool. Yeah, and then Aayushi, you wrote the blog post, so I guess if people want to know what your answer is, the link is right there. Is there anything that you think we didn't cover that you wanted to add?
You covered it all. It's exactly.
By the way, there's a lovely video here on that
yeah.
post. I hadn't seen it, but how quickly can you create ads in Optmyzr versus in Google Ads? Love doing these speed comparisons. So if you haven't seen that video, check it out. Okay, cool. So final topic we have for today, and keep the questions coming. These are great. So what about, so if you do decide to go with smart shopping campaigns and you still want to have a little bit of a prioritization of your products, how do you achieve that? Through the use of some negative keywords. Sorry, not negative keywords, but exclusions, right? So, and this is the trickiness with smart shopping campaign, is you don't get search terms data, you don't get to do certain exclusions. But if you think about it, there are certain ways that you can still manage these things. And so that's what Aayushi uncovered and is going to share with you now.
Right. So as we know, and we just discussed, that smart shopping doesn't give you a lot of ways to optimize your campaigns. A few of them, as we know, are to have different campaigns created. That's already discussed. Another one is to have a way in which you can exclude your low performing products. So something which we now support using Rule Engine right here is to exclude your product groups for smart shopping campaigns. The most important thing here is to have a group structure. That means to have one item ID in one product group structure. That is something which you can easily achieve using Builder 2.0. And once that is done, you can very quickly have simple rules where if you are having your product groups with clicks, but they are not converting in last 14 days or last 30 days, you can exclude those product groups. Now, because there is only one product in a product group, excluding a product group would ideally mean that you're excluding a product from Smart Shopping campaign. And this makes sure that those products which are not really good, getting you a good ROS, or Google might be aggressive in selling it out. And if you exclude them, you will not be you'll not have that issue anymore. So this is something which you can definitely try out. The second thing which we heard a lot is to have a way to be able to tweak the target. So since you cannot do much about the bidding in smart shopping campaigns, there's one thing which we can definitely try out is to look at the performance of your shopping campaigns and tweak the target ROAS at the campaign level. So this is something which you can definitely very easily do using Rule Engine. So try this out.
Great. All right, so we're right at the scheduled time here, so we'll stick around for any questions that people want to ask, but this was very helpful. So thanks, Aayushi, for showing us some of the capabilities, how you combine shopping campaign builder, shopping campaign refresher, and a rule engine to manage even something that most people think you can't really manage, like smart shopping campaigns. So we'll also be sharing more in the coming weeks on these automated ways to split out the campaigns based on historical ROAS performance. We're going to try to turn that into a case study based on the good results that we've seen so far. So thanks to everyone for watching. Anyone who's got to go, and we'll answer some questions now. So Andre's asking, so one item in one group leads to over segmentation and will decrease smart bidding performance. So that's a tricky one. Okay. So the way that Google looks at things is they look at the search terms and the conversions, and sort of based on these two and how they interact, that's how the machine learning model builds their prediction model to decide what bid to place for what product. Now that's how it works on search on keywords. There is a little bit of confusion, and we're still trying to get to the bottom of this because fundamentally there's nothing in the machine learning models that should make it work differently for smart shopping. However, the guidance that the shopping team gives is kind of like what Andre is saying, is that you shouldn't over segment. It's quite interesting though, because there is recent news which kind of flew under the radar that to start a smart shopping campaign, you no longer need to have conversion tracking enabled. So literally what Google is saying is that they will optimize your campaigns for conversions, even if you're not reporting any conversions, which is weird, right? So that kind of goes into explaining that the machine learning model can even figure out based on your product feed, the things that you sell, the categories, what are you similar to, and how will that relate to the types of queries that people do and the types of ads that they see and the types of conversions they might get from other retailers, right? So I'm personally never too worried about over segmentation. Because the machine learning models seem to be quite good at picking out little pieces here and there to still come up with something. Now, one interesting thing that I recently learned is that if you are not reporting proper conversions, so for example, you always pass a conversion value of 1 for every sale, so you report conversions, but not really the correct value, you may not get the results that you want because the machine learning model becomes very conservative because it thinks you're getting really low return on ad spend, right? Because you're not reporting the actual value, you're severely under-reporting it. And then it says, well, this advertiser might not be happy, so let's not spend too much money on these keywords, on these searches, right? And so in that case, what we've heard what you need to do is you need to put in the correct conversion value, or you need to tell Google you're actually okay with having a low return on ad spend, because that low return on ad spend is not truly a low return on ad spend, right? And that's where things kind of interconnect. And if you have a low conversion volume in certain product groups and certain ad groups, then it may also look to certain advertisers like, oh, wow, we had one conversion last month, and so it was a 20% conversion rate, and now it's no conversion, so it's down to a 0 conversion rate. But all of that was for one product, so statistically, it's not really significant. And Google's always very worried that advertisers will look at these numbers and kind of freak out because they think there's been a huge shift, when sort of at the higher level of the campaign, things are still quite okay, and that portfolio is still okay. So I know that's a very long answer, but it's also a very complicated question. But that's kind of what I understand as far as that goes. Okay, Raul is asking, saying Optmyzr is a great tool. Thank you for that. Will it help automate by automating each client after some time with the help of this tool? And yeah, so absolutely. Geetanjali, you want to talk about how Optmyzr reduces your manpower needs?
Yeah, so I think that's kind of what we do. Like the purpose of using Optmyzr is to reduce the day-to-day stuff that you're doing. So you can automate a lot of your day-to-day management, like queries, bids, ads, reporting. So pretty much things that you spend 80% of your time on, you can automate it and focus more on strategy and actually multiplying and acquiring more business. So that's exactly what Optmyzr does.
Yeah, so Rahul's saying that he's relatively new to Optmyzr, so welcome. It's kind of like Optmyzr facilitates what gets done in the big leagues, right? So some of these strategies that we've talked about today, like by no means does everybody do this, but this is what we see experts and the most successful advertisers trying to do. But these things are more time consuming than your average, hey, I'll just set up one smart shopping campaign and kind of like be okay with having average performance. Like, how do you push that to the next level? And that's the thing that Optmyzr really helps facilitate, is these best practices, top of the line methodologies that we know people should be doing, but just they're too complicated because Google's interface is not built for that. So that's what we're helping to save you time on. Andre's confirming that we're not. that is actually true. Thank you, Andre.
I wanted to add a quick point on the over segmentation that Andre was mentioning. So with smart shopping, it's still just one ad group. So you aren't actually hyper segmenting, because queries actually do go to the ad group level, and Google does look at data for the whole campaign. So even if you have individual product groups inside that ad group, it's still not, it should, in my opinion, it should not affect the amount of data Google has to work off to make a decision on your bidding.
Yeah, and then on segmentation, there is like one downside in regular shopping campaigns. If you have product groups that are too small, you lose the competitive data that Google has about like benchmark CTR and benchmark CPC. That can, in some cases, have been helpful. So that's a trade-off you have to weigh in terms of what you want to see and how you want to manage things. So everything comes with pros and cons, but generally we do see that more segmentation just gives you more of the controls that you ultimately want. All right, so yeah, and like our producer saying here, if anyone has more questions, we have a fantastic support team. Aayushi is on that team. I believe she's taking a vacation, so you may not hear from her for about a week, but it's a well-deserved vacation. So thank you for showing us around, Aayushi. Thanks everyone for watching. And we will be back in 2 weeks, and we'll have a segment on how to manage your budgets. Make sure you don't spend too much, make sure you don't spend too little, make sure you spend your money in the right places, and how you can do all of that with Optmyzr. So we'll see you in 2 weeks. We also have a PPC Town Hall next week, which is about smart bidding, and we actually have Google joining us on that call. So, and I promise it's not just Google talking, it's going to be me asking questions of Google. So it's going to be a good one, and it's going to be very useful advice for everyone attending. So thanks again.